A week after he shot in the throat at 31, when you expect this guy to live to 70, you're talking about Michael Jordan? No, of course he's talking about Michael Jordan, because he wants to integrate that keyword, GOAT, again, right into this post. Meaning this stuff even coded in hoaxes and psyops right in front of everyone. That's how obvious this stuff is, but how dumbed down it proves everybody else. Actually, so the Baphomet, again, mentioned the GOAT, and I just talked about this with the supposed shooter, Tyler Robinson. On his screen, you can debate the stuff with Valhalla all you want. That's GOAT Island right on the screen. You could see it side by side blown up next to one. So that was on his screen. This is a photo that the government released to all of us. When they said, we found the shooter, here are photos of him. This is what we were given, right? Clear as day on the computer. No explanation as to what he's doing, why he's standing there taking the picture. It looks odd enough. You know, it's like a mugshot, but they stand still taking a photo. And then he has a GOAT Island on the screen. So I remember seeing on your wrist a red bracelet. Interesting. Well, Charlie Kirk doesn't wear the red bracelet out in public, but he was wearing a red bracelet, right? So she's mentioning the red bracelet, of course, and that's the red string she's talking about of Kabbalah. For people, well, he's wearing the red bracelet too. And he's playing his role of being anti-Israel while wearing the Kabbalah bracelet right in front of everybody's eyes. Isn't it interesting that Candace Owens and now Ian Carroll, who are working together, are suggesting that Charlie Kirk was secretly anti-Israel and that he was killed by Israel, because that's the conspiracy they want you to follow. This is a message from Ian Carroll to Charlie Kirk 4 days before he was supposedly assassinated. Jesus defeated death so you can live. And Ian says, and you dedicated your life to serving the people who killed him. And he's wearing that bracelet. So again, you might say, why are these agents wearing these bracelets? Why are these agents showing us that they're actually partying? Well, they don't expect you to notice these things. Remember, signs and symbols, that's all conspiracy nuts talk about. Oh, just because rolling up the 666 hand sign or doing the triangle power or doing all-seeing eye, oh, no worry. Those people are nuts. That stuff's not real. And they know that you'll just listen to them and you'll just dismiss them exposing themselves right in front of your face. But these people are playing this role because, again, the more that Israel starts to get blamed for these things, a conspiracy swirl about Israel being blamed, and Israel should be blamed. Israel is behind it. Okay? Israel's the machine of the beast. They run it all. These people are outspoken now against them. All they're going to do, people like Candace Owens and, who's the other guy, like Nick Fuentes, you guys keep asking me about? They're acting and act the way they act so that they can bring in anti-Semitic laws and the Noahide laws and protect those people from free speech. When they're in the club, they're just doing it to get you on board so that way they can have more stuff out there. There'll be more talk, mainstream talk about how all of a sudden conservatives are blaming Israel for Charlie Kirk's assassination. Right? This person said it best on Twitter. You can tell Ian Carroll and Candace Owens are over the target and are threats to the powers that be because they don't have their YouTube accounts anymore. Oh, wait, right? Because these people are talking about the same things that I've talked about for many years and many others, exposing the Talmud and the Zohar and the Kabbalah, right? Well, they're not necessarily going into detail about that stuff. But they're out there speaking anti-Israel. Their channels are fine. They're safe. There's no hate speech. Well, why? Oh, because they're bigger than everybody else. I can't take them down. I had 500,000. I had over millions of subs if you combine all the channels. And so many other people out there. They're protected. Tucker Carlson, too, right? Again, we've seen the Kabbalah bracelet on people like Jared Kushner, who, again, conveniently, I believe, lives.
All right, first shot, Ruger American 3.6, Winchester Super X 180 grain round. You can see where we hit right there, and it's split.
Initially, I disregarded the possibility of CGI because I immediately allowed AI to do the analysis. Now, I do wonder if the letters on the t-shirt are disappearing unreasonably. But AI denied evidence of digital manipulation when I asked about letters disappearing as well. Regardless, we now know it is fake because Charlie Kirk clenched well before the shot was fired and waited with eyes closed for a good second, much longer than just blinking eyes.
You know now for a crime scene, you don't move anything. He takes down the camera that is directly above where Charlie was sitting. And I asked, okay, well, what about this camera thing? Why would you grab the cameras? And he says, because the first thing that I thought is that I better secure the footage and be helpful and hand that footage over to the feds. Well, obviously that's where things get into a pickle with me because we don't trust the feds, right? I'm like, no, we don't trust the feds. We don't gotta do that. Just let me have the footage. I'm like, just send me the footage, please. Let me look at it. There's a lot of conspiracies that are floating around right now. People don't know what to believe. So in the short run, he agrees that rather than send the footage, he will get onto a FaceTime call with me and he will show me the footage on his computer. He did that and I watched the footage and I'm going to tell you what I saw. First and foremost, there is nothing gory about this shot at all. And so again, I am still going to work with him to get me the footage so that I think it should be shared. There's nothing gory about this footage from the back. The thing that really stood out to me, and I just kept asking him to replay it over and over and over again, is that there's no blood. There's no blood from the back. There is no blood. There's no blood.
And all these hand signs shown right in your face. I see this as proof of fakery. They want us to believe that there was a second sniper, constructing both sides of politics, divide and conquer. Moreover, seeing this makes it sound plausible that thousands of the spectators filming the shooting are just paid Zionist Jews.
And her credibility, I mean, is going to go down the tubes because she needs to bring receipts. Bill Ackman brought receipts. How long was that tweet?
It's still going. I think
he was there in the room. Andrew Colbert was there in the room. You're on the board of Turning Point?
Yeah.
Okay. When's the last time you saw Candace Owens?
In person?
Yeah.
2015,
Oh,
2016.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, no,
when's the last time she was at a Turning Point event?
Not in many years.
Okay.
Well,
So without even being biased, is Candace even involved
There's
in Charlie Kirk's life at all?
no question proof that Candace Owens has nothing to do. She would be in a perfect world if they didn't have this. What I already know was a very quiet breakup where she got too rabbit hole for him. She would be the logical heir to the DPUSA throne, but she's
and
not.
now she's not even invited.
Correct. So this is so their divide is.
Wait a minute, not invited, meaning
she's not even there.
Yeah, she's not one of the names.
What, you don't think she'll be at the funeral?
No.
That's not the funeral.
The heir to
Oh,
the
okay.
DPUSA throne.
She doesn't speak at the events anymore.
I mean,
So that's just what it's so good for this to happen because you guys are watching everything that I'm saying and you can watch them lie. Eric Bowling, I just don't even get this. How could you say that I have not spoken at a Turning Point USA conference in years when I literally went on tour with Turning Point USA on college campuses last year? Like that's just incredible. You didn't know that I went, I was on tour for Turning Point USA last year. You don't remember that happening?
This is a Winchester Model 70 chambered in 30-06.
That the steel core? Steel core, and that's copper? Oh, I bet it is, yeah. Good eye. That is wild. It still barely slowed down, I feel like. It's crazy how much it diverted the steel core up. Yeah. That
Look at
wound
the
cavity
spine
is
coming out of the
insane.
back.
It demonstrates again just how much bigger exit wounds are than entrance wounds.
If there was any assassination, in any shape or form, no hand signals would be necessary. Moreover, staging it also does not require hand signs, so they were planted. This is the absolutely last theory I resorted to, but it holds against more scrutiny than any other attempts to explain all these severe mismatches of evidence. Fakery explains why it took over 2 hours to pronounce him dead. Realistically, such a wound kills in minutes or seconds. It's a 7-minute drive from the university to that hospital. He was not pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital, and the reason for that is, in case if anyone saw him breathing. There was the excuse that he hadn't died yet, but did shortly after. To this day, the time of death is only known to Donald Trump. Nobody else confirmed his death. For 5 hours, FBI ignored these videos. The channel Russian Vids pointed out 2 important facts that I didn't see.
First off, I want to show this female passing by this woman. And why would she film here? Why isn't she filming Charlie Kirk? She's filming this direction. Again, they don't want to get a close-up of what's really happening. And that's the point of filming only in this direction. Make no mistake about it. This person is here to only film in this direction. I'll get a little bit of a close-up later. Let's zoom in here. Now watch this female cover her mouth and tells her something. Hey, okay, let's go. And there she goes. They both take off. Okay, these are all these people are part of the production. And then before he's even shot, his eyes are closing, preparing for what is supposedly the shot itself. You see the shirt go up.
I verified this to be true with the original unedited video.
Violence. Great. Violence. Great.
I saw a variety of edited and deepfake videos that get people to stop trusting their senses. I verified with another video that, indeed, the hairline is different. It is clear that a lot of fake conspiracy theories based on edited videos are released by the intelligence agencies themselves to distract honest investigations. So, my conclusion is that these hand signs were also deliberately shown to convince people that Charlie was killed, that the wound was made by the sniper, even if a second sniper. Zionist media that I mentioned before, these reports are more controlled than we can imagine. They deliberately release evidence conflicting with the leftist assassin narrative to suggest an assassination either way. Both of these narratives are pushed by different talking heads of the same owner. The recipe is problem, reaction, solution. To be the most effective, they need to design their invention of the anti-Semitism problem with precision. But if Israel really did kill him, if there really was a sniper in a black tactical helmet, wouldn't they all have electronics to communicate? So these hand signs are for the show. While it was a plausible explanation for this shirt lift, be it a shock wave in the pipe, or whatever, it is still naive to assume that the lift was an accident. Deliberately, it concealed the exact details that would allow us to tell with certainty if the wound was not caused by a bullet.
You know, we've gone through the Holocaust, and I'm committed, as are my people, to prevent a second Holocaust that Iran was planning. And that's what we've been doing in this war. It's taken this long because we had to break this noose of death. It made their plans to then proceed to America. They say death to America. We're just standing in their way. And boy, did we stand in their way.
Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country.
Is going to be wearing all black, black long gun, black tactical helmet, a black mask, possibly wearing a tactical vest and jeans, black tactical helmet, black tactical helmet, black tactical helmet.
Okay. I was standing from probably the third row in the bottom. I saw hit, I heard the shot ring out. I looked to my left, and then I looked over to my right. I saw him slump over in his chair forward. He slumped over. He had blood coming from the left side of his neck, down his shirt, and he slumped over and he was carried off. Get off me!
Just like with the ammo inscriptions, this is so comically stereotypical. I bet they are paid to wear fully red MAGA uniforms, designed for maximum political tension, just like the furry messages on the bullet casing. Videos with the bullet are fake. So are with muzzle flash. So are with wounded right ear. There's a debate about body armor due to an unnatural shirt lift. The dot was believed to be where the bullet hit and deflected from the armor plate, and up toward the neck. The deformation of the bullet allowing a very large wound. It can't be so. In my final and possibly wrong theory, the dot is blood, not a hole. On some possibly edited videos, you can see the outline of whatever underneath is lower than the dot. If not deflection, what's a better theory? This does look like some object. And there were claims by people talking to Kirk in person that he wears body armor. So why the news never mentioned the word body armor? Ever? He could have worn it despite being hit in the neck. Is there a secret within this plate that ruins the narrative? I can imagine that this has highly pressurized air, chamber for blood, and a tube into the fake skin.
That means it must have experienced a force. The direction of the force is easy to work out. It's just the difference between these two vectors. So we know the force is acting in this direction. That's pretty obvious too. We can imagine the water slamming against the inside wall of the pipe. So if the water is feeling a force in this direction, the curved section of the hose must be feeling a force in this direction. And so this slight bend in the hose becomes larger as it's pushed outwards by the force of the water.
This tube underneath a layer of fake skin recoils because of the bend. That's just my explanation of why the shirt lifts so suddenly. I would like to learn a better theory, but this forces me to assume that Charlie Kirk is alive, even though Israel had every reason to want him gone. Why would the crisis actor George Zinn be arrested? Students saw someone on the roof. At least one of all the people on rooftops must have informed the police of a sniper running away. If they couldn't stop the sniper before too late, they could at least communicate that it wasn't George Zinn on the roof over there. He was taken into custody, then transported to a hospital, and only then hours later, because he confessed that he is not the shooter, police started looking for someone else. Not because people reported seeing someone on the roof.
I'm an American citizen. Yes, I want Israel to win. Yes, I'm a Christian. But some of the mess, and you saw, and you've seen how I've been treated, Megan, by some, not all, by some.
No, it's very irritating.
It's
been so unfair. They were coming after you after Turning Point for, among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented.
Though. No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Again, I just want to repeat for the 5th time. I love Israel. I want Israel to win. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions. Not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no, I am a bad person if I do this. And I could go, you saw it, Megan. It was trending on Twitter, thousands of tweets and text messages. And if I were to be charitable and generous, I will say the people that are attacking me are in a hyper paranoid state because they're at war, and war tends to make things black and white. And you're a hammer looking for a nail. So I'm trying to be charitable, Megan. Literally, I'm trying to cut as much slack as I can, right? They go, okay, what would it be like if all of a sudden I'm starting to see a pattern of behavior similar to what my grandparents saw in 1930s Germany online? How would I behave? So that's like my charitable kind of overcompensation spirit. At the same time, I'm like, but it's not defensible to be dumb, right? We push back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing? I gotta be careful the way I say this. They're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. I don't use that term lightly, okay? They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there, okay? And let me tell you, my pattern recognition over the last 5 years has become pretty sharp. COVID, Maui fires, Epstein. When I see a story and it doesn't click, our guts are usually right.
Israel is probably the most advanced surveillance state in the world, and the Gaza border is probably the most heavily surveilled. I know all these things firsthand because I served on the Gaza border. Do you know how long it takes an attack helicopter to get activated and blow up any one of those tractors or pickup trucks? Less than 5 minutes. It could have been a matter of 5 minutes before the whole thing was upended. I'm sorry, that's an inside job.
I am Israeli. I was in Jerusalem. I was serving in the army. I was in the intelligence unit. Defense is guarded 24/7, not only by patrolling cars, not only by cameras, not only by fences, electric fence, also by laser that is activating alarms. Nobody can cross that fence. You cannot enter unless you have help from inside. There was help from inside. This operation was over by Hamas. The plan is to flatten Gaza. Let's talk the truth.
I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun. That's an IDF soldier. Right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far to saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's decided to exercise New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question. The whole country is the IDF. The whole country is. And you're trying to tell me that they're going to concerts and kibbutzes and schools?
2 Israeli army veterans are mad, and they say Israel's defenses should have stopped the invaders. Let's look at the supposedly impenetrable border defenses that they're talking about, shall we? The wall is steel-reinforced concrete, 20 feet high and 22 miles long. In front of it is a minor fence, and behind it is a $2 billion electrified steel fence. Every few hundred yards there are machine gun turrets, patrolled 24/7 by soldiers, all of it backed up with an array of devices for detecting anyone approaching the fence. These devices include radar systems with cameras that cover the entire territory of the Gaza Strip, night vision cameras, of course, a system of lasers for detecting movement, super high-def cameras that can see faces close up from 6 miles away. The cameras are located atop surveillance towers. Many of these cameras are mounted in balloons, allowing the spotters to see deep into Hamas's backyard. A small army of spotters monitor these cameras intensely, 24/7, and the spotters reported that they could see training camps, which are as far from the border as you can get. Before you're out of range of these cameras, you're in the sea. The cameras send a picture of any intruder to the spotters, who then send the information to the soldiers who operate the machine gun towers by remote control, with devastating effect. These machine gun turrets should have exterminated the Hamas invaders when they first approached the fence, but the soldiers manning them had been evacuated before the attack on the morning of October 7th, all except the soldiers manning this one. Accidents happen, I guess. The whole perimeter is patrolled 24 hours a day on the ground, including tanks, and from the air, of course. And backing this whole system is a battery of 28 Apache helicopters, capable of flying 200 miles an hour, firing 600 explosive 30mm machine gun rounds per minute, plus Hellfire missiles, and
less than 5 minutes
away from Gaza. Paratroopers on call and ready to be flown in anywhere in minutes. The military base near the Gaza border is capable of responding within minutes with 200 soldiers armed to the teeth. And of course the bombers, currently murdering children in Gaza, would arrive in seconds after takeoff. If one of these multiple standard defense measures had been in operation, active on the morning of October 7th, the attacks would have had zero chance of breaching the wall alive, much less hurting anyone on the other side of the wall, as we are about to see. Hamas had been on the warpath for 40 minutes before the sun came up. The helicopter should have been in the air 35 minutes before this video was taken. Given that the attack was already underway at this point, these guys should have been obliterated as they first left town and started down the dirt roads to the fence. But we're just getting started. This video is mind-boggling. You have to please note at the top of the screen that the New York Times calls this base the heart of all military operations along the Gaza border. What you are seeing take place is this massive attack launched by Hamas upon this completely abandoned military base. And I count at least 5 and 87 Hamas fighters. We were told there were over 1,000. WTF is up with that. And look at the length of this guy's shuttle. This is not dawn. The sun is well up. It's at least an hour past dawn. Maybe 2. Nearly 3 hours after the rockets. And well over an hour after the first attack on the fences. And the New York Times also reports that although the defenses of the base were removed, many soldiers were not only left behind, but they were allowed to keep sleeping. Several were killed in their bunks. The death of these soldiers was not an accident. Where was the IDF, asked the New York Times? It was part of a plan. It was so insanely obvious that the New York Times couldn't resist asking. In all these videos of Hamas, where's the goddamn Israeli army? This body cam video was taken by Hamas operatives. It shows them driving miles to the border fence, kicking up dust the whole way in full view of the Israeli spotters who saw it and reported it. In order to have any credibility, official Israeli television has had to admit what everyone in Israel already knew, that the military disappeared as this tiny invasion took place.
Stop watching from the first explosion until the moment terrorist squad number 1 crosses into Israel. Shows 7.5 minutes. In that time, they need no Israeli resistance.
Let's revisit this crucial point. At this point in the video, when we see this explosion in the distance, terrorist squad number 1 had already been on their way for some time, and the spotters would have seen all of their movements. So, the spotters said that they gave warning to the IDF immediately, and this would have been well over 7.5 minutes before Hamas arrived at the wall. And yet,
in that time, they need no Israeli resistance.
And what about the machine gun towers placed every few hundred yards, one of which we see in action here?
We couldn't use helicopters because they didn't know who and what is going on there.
Right. They couldn't tell that these guys with the RPGs and bulldozers were Hamas. Or these guys. 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 Or these fools, my favorites. Parked, waiting, doing everything they could think of to attract the military. And then the director behind the camera whispers, "Hey, I'm it. Run out there and pose for the camera. Now, pretend you're shooting at something." Cool. By the way, there are all these videos showing fewer than a dozen Hamas wandering around, and there are no videos of Hamas fighting the Israeli army. None. I'm just saying. These 2 Washington Post reporters made a big deal about Hamas blowing all these narrow holes in the wall.
It took 9 minutes.
And then we were treated to this very short parade of at least 8 Hamas people walking single file through these narrow openings. But after these guys go through these narrow holes, then what? Do they wait for the bus? Hitchhike? These holes are useless if the trucks can't get through. There's something fishy going on here, right? Hey, look at all these completely useless holes the amazing wizards of Hamas were able to magically make. Ooh. This is all smoke and mirrors, misdirection, to distract you from the nearly obvious truth that the trucks went through a gate. Israel, you see, built a 20-foot-high wall, 22 miles long, with a gate right in the middle of it. And then they left this gate completely undefended. At the risk of repeating myself, what the frog? And look at the welcoming committee that received these 2 trucks, carrying 1,000 soldiers each. Mossad operatives opened up gates in the wall to allow the trucks through. You just saw it. They opened up gates in the wall, and then they guided the Hamas trucks through. That's how the trucks got through the wall. Good luck finding that fact anywhere. Go pay for this video right now.
Branded itself as the party of resistance to Israel and undermined the peace process with a long series of attacks and suicide bombings. Netanyahu's political career seemed dead. And it wasn't until a series of bus bombings by Hamas in Israel as part of their own efforts to derail the peace accords that Netanyahu was first elected prime minister. His cabinet is stocked with extremists. His current finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, explained that strategy out loud in 2015.
The Palestinian Authority is a burden, and Hamas is a terrorist organization that no one will recognize, and no one will give it status in the ICC. No one will let them lead a decision in the Security Council. The main pitch we are playing now is international delegitimization. Hamas, at this point, in my opinion, will be an asset.
Hamas is an asset. And for years, Netanyahu's government was actually allowing suitcases of cash to be delivered to Hamas. When that scandal broke, Netanyahu insisted that that money was for humanitarian aid, which still doesn't explain why it had to be delivered in luggage in the back of a fucking car.
I give him a lot of credit for even doing this really dangerous piece, though he neglects to mention that there's only one reason for making deliveries of cash, because black market arms dealers don't accept credit cards. This picture is from the Times of Israel, in a story about Israel giving Hamas billions of dollars in cash. And this is from a Haaretz article about Israel giving Hamas billions of dollars in cash. And this is a New York Times article about Israel giving Hamas billions of dollars in cash. But this article is killer, because it quotes Netanyahu saying that he wanted Hamas to be strong, and that he encouraged giving Hamas money for weapons. Billions in $100 bills was delivered in suitcases. Netanyahu, of course, denies it, but all of these news organizations ignored his denials and just pointed to the evidence. But the U.S. has spies too, and when the U.S. spies reported that Qatar was giving Hamas money to buy weapons, the Congress threatened to impose sanctions on Qatar. But Netanyahu sent his Mossad boys to meet with the congressman, and the Mossad spooks gave the congressman a nod and a wink and told him to back off, which they did. These billions in cash payments were approved at the highest levels of the Mossad. David Barnea, the Mossad chief, welcomed the money. The Qatari bagman was escorted into Gaza by Mossad agents, and the chief of Mossad approved these payouts right up until a few weeks before the October 7th false flag attack. Early December, two courageous and prestigious law professors published a shocking story that someone was shorting the stocks of Israeli companies just before the October 7th attacks. That is, on October 2nd, millions of dollars in bets were being made on dozens of Israeli stocks, betting that they would go down in the following week. On dozens of stocks, the bets on just one of these dozens of companies made the criminals $10 million. And the professor said in so many words that these criminal stock traders obviously knew about the coming attacks and profited from these murders by making these bets. The story made news, sort of. You never heard it. These two heroes told CNN that what they found was the tip of the iceberg. CNN looked for someone to criticize them, but all they could find was the Yale law professor, who called the article shocking and called the evidence in the article strong. Reuters interviewed the head of the Israeli Stock Exchange, who told them that there was nothing unusual in the number of bets being placed against the market, nothing to see here. And the same doofus also told Reuters that these short bets were made by an Israeli bank known to him and to the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. Got that? He knows who did it. And the criminals who placed these bets can't be terrorists. If they're friends of his, they're probably members of the Israeli government, so they can't be terrorists, right?
They're calling it their 9/11. What the hell happened on the American 9/11? Nobody knows. Clearly the official narrative has huge holes in it.
It shouldn't be a surprise that the exact same thing happened on 9/11. Mainstream qualified scholars found insider trading then as well. There's a footnote at the end all about it. That a paraglider is a weapon is a sad, pathetic joke. Hamas put on a big show in April, 5 months before the attack, but no one dressed like these guys is seen in any of the videos from October 7th. I guess they had to take the costumes back. At noon, the Israeli military's Southern Command, the people in the center of the action, assessed that 200 Hamas had entered Israel. Most videos show fewer than 10 gunmen. None shows more than a dozen. And for the staged show, the photos show 20 or so. A kibbutz is a commune. The residents are communists. They are the left wing of Israel. They believe Israel can live in peace with Palestinians by helping the Palestinians form a Palestinian state. These peaceniks are hated in the extreme by Netanyahu and his gaggle of racist, bloodthirsty Uber-Zionists. The Nova Music Festival also was a peace festival, attended by the younger kibbutz group. There is no group of people on the planet who Netanyahu would rather see dead. I'm not a fan of numbers games, especially where the numbers come from sources I regard as liars. But the numbers from the lying Israeli government are all we had to work with. And taking the numbers given to us by these lying monsters using their numbers, it appears that the IDF killed virtually everyone who died on October 7th. They now say that the total number of dead is less than 1,200, and they say that of these 1,200, 700 are police and military. So 1,200 total minus 700 military leaves around 500 civilian dead. The total dead from Kibbutz Berry is 112, and the total murdered at the music festival, we are told, is 360. The total number of civilians killed anywhere then, besides the Nova Peace Music Festival and Kibbutz Berry, is 28. This little numbers display suggests then that all the Hamas fighters we've seen roaming all over southern Israel, shooting randomly at civilians to get them to call the police, and all of the hours and hours and hours of unhampered wandering and shooting. This math display suggests Hamas killed something around 28 civilians, which corroborates what the Hamas spokesman said about not killing civilians, and these numbers corroborate what our 4 former hostages told us. In fact, each fact corroborates the others. We've already seen that Hamas did not have the weapons to destroy these houses.
זה כוחותינו ירו בהם
חד
כשניסו
משמעית, הם
לחסל את
ניסו את
החמאס.
כולם, כולל הבני ערובה. כשירו לתוך הבית, שזה בית קיבוצי קטן, זה לא איזה...
The most respected news source in Israel interviewed a witness from the same kibbutz, and according to the newspaper and their witness, 2 days after the attack started, the tank commanders decided to shell the house and kill all their occupants. The price for this decision was terrible, at least 112 people. Right here, this one kibbutz. And to attack and slaughter civilians came from the military's high command. In an interview with Israel's Mako news outlet, one Apache pilot reflected that he knew that many of these vehicles may have contained Israeli captives, but he chose to open fire anyway. The Apache pilots testified that they fired a huge amount of munitions, emptied the belly of the helicopters in minutes, flew to rearm, and returned to the air again and again. The Apache helicopters appeared to have focused on vehicles from the Nova Electronic Music Festival, and attacked cars with apparent knowledge that Israeli captives could be inside. They also fired on unarmed people exiting cars or walking on foot through the fields. You read it, now see it. Perhaps inspired by the facts coming out in the press, someone leaked a few seconds of camera footage from one of the helicopters showing exactly what we just read. These are civilians trying to escape in their cars and being fired on by a helicopter with Hellfire missiles. The people you see on the right were lucky enough to have the helicopters arrived, but you can recognize that they're the same concentrations as the people on the left. This inconceivable video gives important context to this inconceivable quote from Admiral Daniel Lagani. There were hundreds of deaths, including many terrorists, or maybe some terrorists. There weren't very many in the first place. And look at all the cars the helicopters incinerated. Hamas could not have done this. Hamas couldn't even have sat in these cars. There weren't enough of them. This was a massive slaughter of Israeli liberty.